Bat phone is disconnected.
We got a new phone.
Phone also?
Oh, it's on. It's already on.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
guess
there we
we're
go.
on.
Wasn't there a little,
Yep, we're
Bob?
on.
Wasn't there a little speaker? Or was it the phone? I guess it was the
I
phone.
guess everybody hasn't seen the Geico commercial.
No, I guess not.
Okay.
You seen it?
It's on TV.
I think it's funny.
I think
Daryl.
we're being recorded.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have a minute taker, but she's not here. So I will just do the roll call. Maxine Dobson here. Sam Cafiso.
Here.
Dennis Heffernan.
Here.
Lori Millette.
Here,
Robert Zukas.
Here.
Darrell Britton. He's not here. Peter Bracci.
Here.
Bob Hamilton. Here. Julian Kiska.
Here.
Okay.
Do I get a folder?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Dennis needs his.
I have mine.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so introduction of new members. Bob Zukas
Contact.
is the first new member, so do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, my name is Robert Zukas. I've been a resident of Plaistow all my life, 58 years, and I've been part of the planning board. I am a member of the Lions Club, and I've been active in scouting and other things in town. So I've been an active member of Plaistow for many years. Growing up, was on the fire department, so I take an active part in this town, and I am looking forward to helping out and being a part of this budget committee this year.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I haven't heard from Darrell Britton, so he's not here and can't introduce himself, but he was also elected in March, so hopefully we will see him soon. Nobody's here for public comment, so we will skip that. And now it is the reorganization part of the meeting, so we need to select a new chair.
Can
I'll
I,
make a
Oh,
nomination.
wait, Sam
I
won.
say something
Yeah.
before we go any further?
Yes.
There's no minute taker again?
No, this process has been long and hard. You know, we've all been without a minute taker since last, what was it?
October.
October. I've been in talks with Town Hall over it. They finally found a candidate, even though I was down here in the beginning of,
The end of February,
the end
beginning
of
of March.
February, and went through 25 applications, and I basically ordered them best to least and said I would take anybody that accepted the job. And then I followed up and didn't hear anything, and I finally heard something, and they said that they were waiting for me to make a choice, even though I already gave them to Town Hall. So, long story short, they finally picked somebody, and she accepted, but now she's not here. Yes, Dennis?
Is that Lisa?
Yes,
that was
Dennis?
on the email?
So, the minutes from last year, did anything ever get caught up?
I
That was
was,
gonna be my follow-up.
do you want me to?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. I was told that Christina Cruz was hired to transcribe them from home, and I have never received anything.
That
And
was
no
a-
fault of anybody on this board, but obviously we were not following the RSAs by not
Correct.
posting those minutes in a
Well,
timely manner, and it was
That,
very
that brings me to.
disappointing.
That brings me to the point I was gonna make. I'm very uncomfortable going forward. We've already been threatened from this corner office that these meetings can be held null and void because we're not following RSA. If I had my way, I'd stop it right now. I don't think we should go a step further.
And I did contact Town Hall from the very beginning about a minute taker, and I was basically told it was my problem. And according to our rules of procedure, it's up to the town manager to hire not just a minute taker, but a secretary.
We have
And
neither.
we have neither.
I did, and I believe it was at one of these meetings, bring it to the attention of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen on a couple of occasions during these
I
meetings.
remember.
And I think we've all made it known that we were extremely disappointed, and I wasn't comfortable, and I will tell you, I even called the state
just to check the RSA and what needs to be done. And basically, they said there wasn't really any further you can go than within the town, so.
Correct. I got the
mean-
same answer from NHMA, so, yeah.
Could we ask Julian to kind of weigh in on this? Should we continue, Julian, without a minute taker, or should we adjourn until we have one?
Well, for instance, I think it's unsatisfactory, the condition we're in right now. I was not aware the minutes weren't caught up. It will be brought up at the next Board of Selectmen meeting. That needs to be done.
I can CC
Yeah.
you on the emails. The town manager was aware of not having minutes transcribed by Christina Cruz, and I said it is not my job to speak with town employees. That was made very clear by the board that we don't contact town employees directly, and I didn't think it was appropriate for me to reach out to somebody that was contracted by the town to do the minutes. I was just supposed to be receiving them.
Right, I'd appreciate that, but I'd like to still move forward.
Oh, yeah.
In a positive note, I know I've already heard the issues and the problems. I will contact the acting town manager tomorrow, or either the chairman will, because I will speak with her as well about this.
Record, Julian, we were told at deliberative session about the backlog that was going to be, the person was going to watch the videos and transcribe from the videos that we had. And they were
Well-
supposed to transcribe the backlog of meetings from October through January. And we were told that at deliberative session, that was going to be done. They had someone to do that, and that was 8 months ago, and it hasn't been done.
Let me take my notes.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
on Sam's point, I mean, according to RSA, the minutes can be pretty vague. You know, it can basically say, we reviewed the following budgets, you know, and that's it. We
Just to
don't
be
have to have
compliant.
word for word the discussion. So I think going forward, just in time and being behind schedule due to, you know, the whole situation that we've been facing, I think with looking at our agenda, we could put together some basic notes and
I'm not opposed to that, not at all. If somebody here wants to do it, I'm not opposed to it.
Bob?
I just want to, just for the record, verify that Julian, as our selectman representative, feels as though we can continue without legal jeopardy, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's why I had my hand up, because I didn't
Yeah.
get to finish.
Sorry.
All right. I believe we should, the minutes right now, according to our agenda, are going to be very minor.
Yep.
The only thing that needs to be recorded, the biggest thing, is the election of the new officers or replacement members. We're not going to be talking about specific numbers in the budgets or voting on that, so we don't have to worry about the detail at this point. As long as someone here is going to do that, I think we should be able to move forward with this meeting, but not if we don't have one for the next meeting.
Lori?
I'll do it for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurie.
I agree, it's important. We have CIP meetings coming up, and we need to get these appointments situated. So I appreciate what you said. I think we all kind of feel the same way about the minute taker, so I'm glad that that's out in the open. Yep. Julian?
And just to move, since we're on the subject of how meetings are run and everything, and I think we really need to have the ability to have remote participation in all budget or all commission and all committee meetings. The town has purchased software. There's no excuse we can't do it. We don't necessarily have to have Dean to be here. Even ones that are not televised should have the ability to have remote meetings, because we really need the participation from members, people in the community who want to participate, but maybe they can't get here at 6:30 after work on time, but still would like to contribute. So it has actually, a lot of people don't get on committees because they can't make the time, or they can't commit every meeting because they have, work schedules. And I'd like to have more participation in this town from actual citizens who really want to participate and actually help. So I think we need to have that set up. We talked about it at the Board of Select meeting last. I think it's still running a little too slow considering how many months this is going on already. And I think even when the COVID-19 crisis, if it's ever over, it should still continue that people can participate remotely and comment remotely. And right now, we definitely, even though they're allowed to come in the building right now, don't want to encourage people to expose themselves unnecessarily. So I think this is a good public safety issue, and I believe it's something that should have, probably maybe we should have done it years ago, because it's always been in the RSA, the ability to do it. We have the software, we have the capability, and I know that Greg Talon and Jay DeRocha are right now working on the details, how to make it work. You should be able to come in here, flip a switch, turn something on, and say, we have a meeting that you can participate in, and live stream it, even if we're not using cable.
I
So-
agree. Sam, did you have?
I don't know what Dean's title is, the cable department, head of the cable department was in here just before the meeting started and explained it to us, that we're pretty much right where you said. We can, other than having a private citizen call in for public comment, I don't know if they can do audio, but not video, but any member of the board, or if we're entertaining a presentation from someone else, they can remotely come into our meeting and do a split screen. So I think we have pretty much the capability that you're looking for. I don't know how simple it is, if it's as easy as flipping a switch, but I believe it's there. And we have it now. It's not going away after COVID. So it looks like we'll be able to do that, which would make things very nice. Like you
Yes.
say, easier to participate would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, Bob.
Just one quick question. Even though we're 6 feet apart, are we still required to wear these masks during this meeting?
Oh, yeah, that was a question. Do you know that?
I don't know if it's a legal requirement.
I had asked about what the protocol was, and I kind of just got the screening information, so I guess until we're notified otherwise, we
Yeah,
should
because
just.
the thing is, if you.
I've watched meetings, Board of Selectmen meetings, some of them they're wearing masks, sometimes they're not. So that's why I asked.
I mean, when you walk in, the door says masks required on the door, so.
Right, but now we're fixed,
Right.
and we're
right.
6 feet apart, and,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, I can find out.
okay.
I'll ask the health.
But Julian can find out for the
Yeah,
next meeting.
I tell you, when the meetings get long, it gets more inconvenient.
Well, you're
Right.
breathing in your own carbon dioxide, so.
Well, let's not start the great mass.
You wear
debate.
glasses, your
Elon,
glasses
yeah.
fog up.
Okay, so let's move on to reorganization. So selection of chair. Dennis?
I'll make a nomination that we select Maxine as our chair.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion?
I'm in
I
favor.
think Maxine has done a great job, so my vote's for her.
Thank you.
Same here.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No, I said aye.
Oh.
I spoke on the phone with some selectmen if they had any preferences or whatever, and everyone was fine with you. So I will make a vote.
Okay. So motion carries.
What
Selection.
was the count for the minute taker?
8-0-0.
Okay.
Selection of vice chair. I would like to nominate Sam as my vice chair.
I'd accept.
Is
I'll
there-
second that.
I'll second it.
Okay. Bob, second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, so motion carries 8-0-0.
Thank you.
Okay, committee,
Made a great team last year, so
thank you.
forward to it.
Committee assignments. So we have the CIP committee and the town report committee. I also don't know if, I know there was the highway building committee that has been
I think it got
dismantled.
dissolved, yeah.
But if we're moving forward with the salt shed, that might be something to have another committee on, and the budget committee have a representative moving forward.
Can I ask Julian? Julian, that was brought up at a Board of Selectmen meeting, and I believe it was tabled, and I don't remember hearing the answer. I haven't been faithful watching the meetings, but there was talk about dissolving
Yeah.
the committee, and then I think it just got left up in the air.
I don't
So-
remember a actual vote either.
so
Okay.
it's- I guess,
I think the thing would be, what's the justification, or what decisions would be made? I think that would be the determining factor, whether they would believe that it should continue or not.
how far along is the salt shed? Because if it's, I saw a foundation there, so if there's no more, if the building is bought, the foundation's in, it doesn't seem like there's much more to be decided.
I think the only thing that's still on the table is the solar panels on the salt shed, which we did not have a satisfactory set of proposals at our last Energy Committee meeting. We thought they were way too high, both proposals, and they were way over what the allotted budget was. So that's kind of tabled until we get some correspondence back, if they can bring it down to some prices that are reasonable. And personally, I said it at the meeting, that I felt that if it's not a good deal, maybe we don't do it this year. We wait
That's
till we get
more
a
the
good
energy
deal.
committee than the building committee. That
That's the
would-
energy, right.
Yeah, you
But it
know.
is part of the building.
Right.
And then the building, at some point, it was built so that it could potentially have it on the roof. So that's a question to come up, whether or not there's an actual purpose for that committee at this point.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
There isn't. It sounds like
Yeah.
the energy committee from this going forward would be it, seeing as I believe the building is, has the building been purchased? I thought it had.
It's all, as far as all the things about the building, it's pretty much a done
I
deal,
thought so.
except for the solar panels part,
Yeah.
the energy part.
I did have a question just to follow up. If the solar panels are going to be put on hold because you don't have satisfactory proposals, how does that affect the actual warrant where it was the building and the solar panels together? If you don't
Correct.
have the solar panels.
Public was sold the building on the promise of solar
Right.
panels.
I think Greg Colby answered that question last Board of Selectmen meeting, because that was asked.
Okay.
Does it endanger the funding if we pulled it off till spring or something? And he said basically that it doesn't.
Okay.
It's still part of the project. There's no deadline to finish the project
Okay.
by the end of the year. It's to just do the project.
Okay.
So it could be as long as 5 years that it's there to perform that part of the project. And it just makes sense that it doesn't, because if you rush into something, you may make a bad financial decision.
Okay.
I'd say we can just.
We just
leave-
can't go
leave
over
that
the amount.
committee For now.
Okay. We'll leave that. If
Yeah.
anything changes, I would just say come back to us and see if someone wants to sit on that committee. Okay, so for the CIP, Bob had emailed me expressing a desire to be on that committee. I don't have a problem with that. I was on it last year, and I am fine giving him my seat. Does anybody want to be an alternate on CIP?
Didn't we have two members on the CIP?
We do.
Is it two
voting
members or?
and a-
Two and an alternate. Yeah.
So,
What day do they meet? What night?
Tim Moore puts that out. I don't have information
I don't remember
yet.
what night of the,
It's usually like a Wednesday.
I thought so. I thought it was a Wednesday, but I'm not positive.
And it's fairly quick, right? A couple, you meet like
It
Right.
was only like 3 meetings
three
last year.
meetings.
It's not a lot of meetings and they're not long meetings because the CIP is pretty well fixed. It's just reviewing the changes.
It really is.
An alternate, I mean,
Well, I guess we need 2 voting members, so do you want to be a voting member?
sure.
Okay. So,
It really is. You'd learn a lot on that.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
Bob,
Really
if you,
helpful.
I
if
was
you're
just gonna
interested
say
in
that.
finding out how things tick, that's really a nucleus of how things work. It's a good one to be on.
Julian?
I'm just going to put this out there. Since the Energy Committee does deal with finances and cost feasibilities, it wouldn't be bad to have a member of the committee while you're in session as a budget committee to sit in on some of the, to represent the budget committee at the Energy Committee. Because we do talk about, most of, all the decisions are based on costs and numbers. And it's not a requirement, but it would be helpful if somebody wanted to do that.
I would do that if you want to,
Let's do, we'll do both Bobs for CIP. Any alternates? I guess if either of you can't make a meeting, just email me and I'll fill in.
Okay.
Or see if someone else wants to fill in at that time. Yep,
And I
Julie.
think one of the reasons I bring that up is because you had to resign from it for reasons.
Right.
And so now we don't really have you there, who have always been there to represent it, and then you brought your information to the committee here, now
Yeah.
there's no one to do that.
Okay, so Sam is willing to do Energy Committee.
I'm already on the mailing list, so I might as well.
Okay, so Town Report, I would like to stay on Town Report, but anybody else can be on it as well if anybody's interested in being on Town Report.
You need
Anybody?
an alternate?
I think we met twice, so I'll
No.
put you down in case I can't.
No, I was going to recommend Pete
Oh,
because he's been on it before. He's been a part of that committee for what, 2 years? He's real excited about being an alternate.
I can tell, yeah.
That would be okay.
Okay, Pete will be the alternate. Okay, and then,
Bob, who needs enemies?
so we do have a vacancy,
like you, who need
unfortunately. Katie Ingalls had to resign. So moving forward, now that this is a new year, we have the opportunity to change our policy in filling a vacancy. It's up to us how we want to handle it. So I can put a press release out to the town. Yeah.
What would it take to put the board back to an odd number like it used to be? I'm not opposed to having more members, but we had an issue where when the number got changed, we ended up with an even number, which we're not supposed to have.
Right.
It would take a warrant article.
Oh, it would, okay.
I'd like to make another point. We've had several years, going back a number of years, where we have not replaced somebody that was either on a leave of absence or had resigned. So we've kind of done that over recent past years.
I mean, we put it out last year and nobody wanted to fill it. So I don't think it
But I
would,
think the point of the odd number is.
so, I mean, are you guys suggesting that we don't fill it?
No, I think you need to go
Yeah.
through the motions
Right.
and
That's
put
what
it
I-
out there. I think we do need a deadline by, I would say, October 1st.
Yep.
And, you know, I know Bob worked hard on putting the policy together, myself and Bob at
Yeah.
one point, and I think it's
Right.
pretty
Well,
solid
we've-
on what's there, so.
We've had the policy for at least 4 years.
Yep,
However, we've had years in which we haven't
yep.
replaced a vacancy because of that odd-even thing.
Well, we'll just put it out to the public so they know and then take it from there. And if nobody responds by October 1st, then it's a done deal.
Yep.
Yeah, Julie?
So I'm getting out of all this, is there going to be something or request by the board to try to change the number so it ends up an odd number in the end?
I think we just
Because
wanted,
that'll have to be a warrant article. If it's a warrant article, then the Board of Selectmen would like to know if that's something that we put on the warrant article.
I guess we were just trying to figure out what the process was. So now that we know
Yeah.
it's a warrant article, I guess we can take
So we've got
a
two
census.
things. Number one, we're going to leave the position open for candidates until October 1st.
Yep.
And number two, we should probably put a formal
I
request to the
think-
Board of Selectmen to get the board back to an odd number.
Okay, just when you do that, make sure you do that because the Board of Selectmen make the warrant articles.
Right. Well, is it something
We
formal
need
we
to know
have
if
to
it's,
do, or
if
can
it's,
we
a-
just
we
tell?
need to know if that's a legal way to do it because it's kind of weird.
That-
The
that's
the
how the-
membership will actually be an even number to make it odd. It's kind
Well,
of weird.
I guess we're asking you
Yeah.
as our selectmen's rep now, we're interested in having that as a warrant article.
So,
And then,
so you're saying the elected members will be an even number with the selectmen to be an
Correct.
odd number? That's
Correct.
that's what you're looking to possibly do?
yes.
Okay,
Dennis?
got it.
So the representative of the Board of Selectmen is a voting member. So there's 10 Budget Committee members.
Yeah.
Plus the board, so we have an odd number,
No,
really.
the 10 is including him.
Oh, yeah, because we went to 9, right?
Right.
Okay.
So
So
would,
we
yeah,
want it
that's
8
right.
plus 1,
oh, so you would actually reduce the number of elected?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
to 8.
That's a possibility, it's not decided.
Right.
Right.
Pete?
When the number of the committee was changed, I think we ought to do the exact same procedure as when it was reduced. You look back and see when the numbers were reduced and do the same thing. And would have to do the same thing.
Bob?
I think we should make a motion to make sure we want to do that, and that way, it's a little bit more official.
Okay.
That this is what our board wants to do, we want to reduce it by 1, is that,
Okay, I was just going off
Talking
a
about-
census, but Dennis?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
I
say.
need to look at the RSA too. Something sticks in my mind that it was either a 13-member board or a 9-member board, but I'm not
We
100%
had-
sure, so.
All right,
at
so
12
Well,
12,
Well,
12 or 9 was
We had
it?
Never get 12 people.
Plus the
before,
selectmen.
plus
Right.
the selectman representative, which
Okay.
gave it the odd number.
Right.
So we're really going back to
Right,
what we had when we had a 12-member plus.
right.
Okay, Sam?
So can we, before we vote to do an official change, can we ask Julian to find out what our procedure is from the Board of Selectmen? And then you come back to us and say, yes, you can do it, and this is what you have to do, and we will make an official vote,
Well, I would say if
nomination.
you have an actual request, then we have something to investigate. Otherwise, we have to find, then we'd have to determine all the options, which makes it more difficult, and it's harder
Right,
to
so
get an
we took a
answer.
consensus, the general consensus is we'd like to find out if we can, and
So
what we
is
have to
the
do.
request to go to 8?
8 elected.
8
officials.
elected? And then we can work from there after we get answers.
Yes.
Correct, and if we have to
That's
make a
going to be the
motion.
request for now, then I can put that forward.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that, I was talking with Dennis and Julian, I just wanted you to know that before the election of having 9 members, we had 12 elected members, and then the Board of Selectmen representative was the odd the 13th or the
Right.
odd. So we're really going back to something like that
Right,
with a reduced number.
right, yeah, I think what happened, it got reduced because they couldn't keep enough board members.
Right, but it should have been reduced to 6?
8.
8. It should have been reduced to 8 instead of 9.
Right, with the voting member.
So we all think that we can't get any members, so we want to go to 8 versus increasing to 1 to 10, is that correct?
We just want
Nobody
the-
wants to go to 10.
Twofold, we want to get an odd number.
Yeah, so 10 and 8 would be.
So we already can't get 1, what makes you think we're going to get 2? So we might as well go down instead of up. That's my thinking, anyway.
Why don't we look at the
Yeah,
RSA
oh, yeah.
before we do
Yeah.
For sure.
send Julian back? And
Well, I'm
then-
saying, once I find the answer on this, all the other answers will fall into
Right,
place.
There you
so
go.
he's looking into it.
So the original request from this board at this point is going back to 8 to make it an odd vote number.
Correct.
And then when I get answers, then all the other possibilities will probably come up.
Yep.
Yep.
We just have to make sure it's legal by state and whatever. And probably, and whether it has to go to warrant article, which is probably true.
Does have to.
So, and if you're reducing, it just means you don't have as many openings the next year possibly. Because then you have to see if the overlapping terms work out too, because it can screw that up.
Okay,
So there's a lot of things to look at.
all right, well, thank you for looking into that. So that takes care of the filling of
Can I
vacancies.
just quick, as far as the open vacancies, if we do get people who apply, just trying to refresh my mind on the policy at that point, what happens at that point?
They'd send a formal request to.
Right, and then they come before us to be?
Yep,
Okay.
and if it's a scheduling conflict, I will just have them come remotely or however that works.
Now, when they come before us, does that mean that let's say there's just one person that comes in, is that person automatically on the board? Or does it take a vote?
I wouldn't think so.
We-
It
we
takes a
had-
vote.
Takes the vote,
Yeah,
We
vote,
would
we
still
have to
vote.
vote.
Yeah.
and it's a vote of the budget committee, not the selectmen.
Correct.
I'm sorry, what would preclude someone from,
It wouldn't, but if
Okay.
they come up here and it's
Just a formal
a
thing.
formal,
got you.
you have to
Okay.
vote on them too.
They didn't have a pulse, we might say.
very well?
Other than that,
Okay, I was gonna say, we don't have people banging down the
No,
doors to,
no.
No, but
so-
we have to officially vote.
I
Maybe
understand
they
that.
weren't a resident, or you figured out, well, they said they could only attend a third of the meetings, you may
Yeah.
not want someone like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got you.
There's all kinds of reasons.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on to the meeting schedule. And I will just preface this by saying, last year, I think all of us worked very hard and we had a lot of meetings because we wanted to make sure we were doing our due diligence, especially when people are complaining about their taxes. We wanted to really try to help the taxpayer. And it all I don't even think backfired is the right word.
waste of time.
It was a waste of time. So I am proposing that we don't meet until we get the budget, the final budget, handed to us. That's my proposal.
100% agree.
Julian?
Are there going to be any workshops or things for the new members? Because
The,
everyone doesn't have the benefit of the workshops you have been to in the past years.
Can I,
I don't know if Bob is familiar with all
you're
of
the
them.
only one.
Yeah.
Darrell Britton's been on before. He's not here now, but Darrell, the other new member, has been a member before in the past. I think he knows the procedure. And I believe he was a selectman also, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he knows it, so it would be Bob that would be at the disadvantage.
I'll get to you in 1 second. And I will say, as coming into this, my first year becoming chair, we did have workshops. and they didn't really accomplish anything. It's all the same information every year, and none of it was particularly helpful in the budgeting process. There are NHMA trainings that are available that you are welcome to go to, and we can set that up, and I think that's more beneficial than the actual workshop meetings. It
Yeah,
was Pete,
go ahead.
Bob, Pete, and you. Bob,
That was going to be my point. The New Hampshire Municipal Association workshops are really where we learn how to do the budget, and all of the rules and regulations and RSAs and so on.
I'll get to you after.
That's important if you can attend. This year, I don't believe they're having them in person. I think they're going to be remote. But if
Yep, I'll give you the
Yeah.
information when I find
I was
out.
going to say the same thing.
Okay, Sam.
And I forgot what I was gonna say.
Julian,
Yeah, and I was going to say, for instance, you don't have to pay for them, they're paid for by the town, the ones that are done throughout the year. And if they have the fall annual conference that they always have, you can go to any workshop you feel you need to learn something from. And that's also covered by the town. It's a 2-day event. I don't know if they're going to run it this year, but it's in the fall, so who knows? It might be calmed down by then.
and I get alerts from them, so as soon as I
remember.
find out their schedule, I'll send it to you.
Absolutely, that works.
Lori?
Well, there's also those workbooks that they give us when we attend, so that might be helpful to,
Yeah, maybe they're PDF files now, or if
Yeah.
everything's digital. But Sam?
What I was gonna say is, I've watched some of the budget committees from neighboring towns, and they do get together for workshops during the year, but what's different, I think, in the other towns is they appoint a representative from the budget committee to each town department. So during these workshops, a representative from the budget committee comes back at a meeting and says, I worked with this certain department, and this is what they're looking for, this is how they're leaning, this is how they're spending their money. So there are things that can be brought to the table. With us being prohibited from dealing with any town employee, it's really a waste of time for us to try and do anything without any numbers or speculative numbers.
I think that the towns that do that, that's a very open and transparent form of government to say like, hey, we're using taxpayer money, we need a taxpayer representative to discuss this with. So maybe that's something the Board of Selectmen can look into moving forward, because I think that would be very
And
positive
it's
for the
not
town.
only during budget season, they're assigned to that department head year-round.
Bob?
I know that Atkinson has year-round meetings. They have a monthly meeting year-round, and a lot of it is the reporting of those members of the budget committee that are assigned to
Yeah,
departments.
that's exactly what I was saying.
Highway department,
Yep.
come back and bringing them up to date on changes, and so it's a very much more involved budget committee in the workings of the town. But over there, they have a town administrator. We have a town manager.
It's just,
I
yeah,
want to add
Julian.
some-
I don't think the thing you're talking about is a violation of any of our current, you're actually they're just attending committee meetings or meetings of departments as an
Like-
observer.
Those meetings, like, it's not like there's a, like, highway working, like, their meeting, that's not publicized to the public, so how would we know they're having a department meeting?
That's true.
So,
Yeah, we'd
But
have
that's,
to,
I don't think, it doesn't mean someone can just walk into town hall and say, I need some stuff from somebody's office. This is, as long as, if it's a regularly scheduled type meeting, if they have a weekly meeting, and one rep can come and observe,
I know,
I personally wouldn't have anything against it.
I think
I don't
it's
see it, I don't
something-
see it as disruptive of anything.
I think it's something to look into, and I know how the process was explained to Sam and I last year when we first met with the town manager. Basically, the department heads go to him with what they want, and then he says, yep, we can do it, or no, we can't, but there's no reason why a budget committee member can't be included in that and say, well, we only plan on giving you X amount of dollars. And talk to them and say, come up with a number collectively instead of they get the number, they give it to us, we don't like the number, it goes back and forth. It just seems like it streamlines the process.
Well, I think a lot of that happens because you don't know what's going on, so you don't know what to ask, and you don't know
Right.
what's planning, and so you have no heads up to understand what the request is.
Correct.
So I thought what you guys were talking about is a person doesn't actually go in there and negotiate with them in a sense. They just observe what their plans are.
Correct, and I think,
Yeah.
They would bring back the sentiments of the department head back to this committee, so that when this committee saw a number, they could say, I worked with that, they need this money because of this, or they don't need that money because of that. At least you wouldn't have to have the department head come in here and try to justify their spending, and everyone be green on the subject and have no
Right.
clue what's going on. And then the department head is also sitting there looking over his shoulder at his boss, which is the town manager behind him, and they're being blindsided. It
Well-
kind of gets everyone on the same page before these meetings
So
take
you're
place.
you're more of an observer, and as an observer, you're not really burdening anybody with extra work.
correct.
Because you're
Except-
just there to learn their process,
Right, the only-
learn their problems and their needs. And that way, when, as a member here, you don't have to go, well, what does the chief think about this? Because you already know the answer to it.
Right. The
Right,
only
so that
problem
would
with
help
that
a
is,
lot.
I'm assuming they meet during working hours. They're not meeting at night.
That was just going to say
Exactly.
that.
That's the only issue there,
So
because
you'd
not
have to have a
everyone.
committee member that is willing to do that
Right.
year-round. So it comes
It's a
down to who's going
different
to
kind of,
volunteer for it.
it would change the structure or the organization of this board, but would just, she was trying to justify why we're trying not to waste time all fall
Yeah.
having workshops where we really don't have any interaction with the workings of the town. So there's no point in getting together to decide things we know nothing about yet.
Now,
Put it simply, I think it's a department head having a budget committee representative.
Correct.
They can contact, communicate with as far as what's going on in their department relating to expenses down the road. If there's a
Right.
big project coming up, they want to inform them about the project, like the deliberative session we learned something about what was going on at Park. We hadn't heard about it on the budget
Yeah.
committee, not until deliberative session. That would have happened in the infancy stages of it. So then the budget committee member would bring it back and present it
Right.
to the budget committee.
When we met with the town manager last year, we kind of brushed on this subject, and what the difference is when you said the administrator or the town manager. So what the feeling I got was that department head is bringing those concerns to the town manager. After that, the department head is off the picture, and it's up to him to decide whether he wants to tell us or not. So that, I guess the structure of our town government might not dictate that, because we can't work directly with the department head without the department head dealing with the town manager for it. He can't circumvent the town manager.
Right.
But to have everybody together on it would be helpful, I think.
Julian, Dennis.
all right, so my question would be, well, again, it's the hours that they meet, but are minutes not taken at these meetings?
No.
Your department meetings, they're not.
Okay, that's what I was curious. All right, so there is nothing to review of what was transpiring or what was discussed. There's no documentation of what's discussed. It's
Correct.
just an open meeting amongst, and then we are then at the mercy of finding out from the town manager whether he decides to tell us or not. It's in his purview.
Correct.
We have no idea. Okay.
Correct.
Julian.
Some of the information that's passed on to the budget committee
Can you wait?
representative.
Julian was going to talk, and then
I'm sorry.
I'll let him go, I'll let him
Oh,
finish.
okay. I'm just trying to keep it in
You
order.
already started.
It'd simply be an email, information submitted to the budget committee representative in an email, then passed on to the budget committee.
Right. It could be that simple. You don't
Communication
even,
thing.
Julian.
I think
Sorry.
there's some department, because we have a small town, and we don't really have a lot of big departments. So one thing I'd like to see is, what is a town that does this, and that's successfully doing this, and how did they implement it? It would be nice to talk to them, because you want to work with, if they have something that works, we may be able to do it. If you have a department like rec, which really, they don't have a really department, so to speak, there's usually one person and the town manager, there's really no meeting, it's a one-on-one thing, day to day. It may not work for something like rec committee, but it might work for something like police department or fire, where they actually have a lot of members, but you also got to be careful. Their meetings may discuss things that are not public information. So you can't disclose everything you hear at that meeting, so that could be an issue too.
Correct.
There's got to be some controls on that too.
I think it would be anything that has to do with numbers,
Well,
honestly. Like,
police department and fire are big numbers in our town.
Yep. Dennis.
I think there is a way you could accomplish it in a smaller way. So I think of like the rec department. So let's say Sam was assigned to the rec department. They're meeting on whatever, the second Tuesday of October. Sam goes and attends that meeting, and they know they're gonna talk about their budget, what they're looking at, you know? So I think on a smaller scale, you could get that done. Highway department might not be as easy, but I think you could meet with the department head, you know, with the town manager, and kind of discuss that. So I think in a small way, you could do that, and I think it would only accomplish, if you did that in one meeting, it won't take up a lot of time. You know, the library trustees, I know you guys met with the rec department to
Yeah.
talk about some things. So I think if we could look at that, and it's not like cemetery trustee, I don't think would have to, there's small budgets that we wouldn't have to do that. But I know we've talked about that in the past of assigning certain people certain budgets, so that may be a way to accomplish what Sam's saying.
Right, give me a town you know that works well in.
Atkinson.
Atkinson does it, Lori?
They could be the
well,
ones that
Okay.
contact.
Something that would be helpful to us right now, and I know you've been trying to get your hands on it, is the expense report. When was the last time we got the expense report?
The
February
last
or
one I
March?
emailed out, yeah.
March?
I think it was up to March.
Right.
Correct.
So-
Got it on the 2nd of April.
So we haven't even gotten.
You
the-
have an updated one, Julian?
On what?
An
Expense
expense
report.
report?
We get a report like every quarter.
Yeah,
that
I
tells you
have, the last one,
expenses.
so we don't get monthly, like,
Yeah,
he waits until the quarter to send it out.
I'll take that.
I mean, I would like to see them as if the month is done, the month is done, I don't need to see the quarter. But,
Some-
I'd like to make a motion that we request from the finance director it to be emailed to either you, so you can email it to us, but on a more timely basis. There is no reason why we can't see those monthly, especially this year with COVID. We know that it's affecting expenses. We don't have any clue what's going on right now. And that's an uncomfortable feeling.
so we as a committee would like to see them monthly instead of quarterly, if that's possible.
Well, he made a motion.
Yep.
Oh, there's a motion.
I'd like us to vote on it, that we're email them.
He needs a second.
Like I said,
You need
it
a
can be
second.
to you and then to us, whatever is easiest. But having the quarterly one on the 2nd shows that all it has to do is be run. I mean, the monthly expense report is not something new. And I know that when I was a chairman, I had a difficult time also trying to get those for our members. I know Dennis used to ask for it all the time.
Is there a second on Bob's motion to obtain monthly instead of quarterly? Does anyone
I'll
want-
second that.
Okay, Bob Zukas is seconding that. All those in favor of,
Discussion?
discussion, sorry.
I think that monthly report should be sent out within the first week of the month, because it's basically on a computer, and waiting until after that doesn't do any good. It could be done within the first week of the month and sent out. So I think the motion could be amended to have a timeline of the first week.
Julian?
I'm really skeptical about causing extra work that may already have, the finance director already has upon their hands, especially now that he's also playing town manager. I would suggest that this committee would just get the report at the same frequency that the Board of Selectmen get it.
Which is?
When we get it, because it's already done anyway.
And that's what I have been sending. I
Yeah.
got the last quarterly one.
Right.
There's been no report for 5 months? You haven't got one for 5 months on the Board of Selectmen?
We just got one recently.
I didn't get that one.
Okay. Just, so the motion could be amended, just get the same information that's provided to the Board of Selectmen. It doesn't, I don't see what the kickback would be, as long as it's not creating, it's not going to create any extra effort. It's just a matter of getting it in your hands.
I will say in the beginning of budget season, I had the
Okay.
monthly one in our folders.
Yeah.
So that is possible. He was doing it at one point. Whether it stopped when we stopped meeting and then it switched to just sending the chair the quarterly, that maybe that's what it was, but we were getting monthly ones at one point. Lori?
So it comes out of BMSI, right? So it must be something you can just print out from. And if that's the only one thing that this board is asking, could we have a monthly expense report? I don't think that's creating.
The chair here can request that. You can request it directly as the acting town manager, which is Greg Polby right now. Then you could request that and let him answer. I mean, if it's something that's not going to be a problem, I don't think he'd have anything to do. It's up to him at this point.
Well, my understanding is that a monthly report needs to be submitted every month anyway. All we're asking is that we get a copy of the monthly report. I mean, end of story. It's not like we're asking for any more work. If they're making a copy going to the town manager or going wherever that one copy is going, all we're asking is that they also, when they email it, we get the PDF, we get something.
Yeah.
The same thing, and I don't understand why the Board of Selectmen don't, if you don't want that, you only want the quarterly, that's fine. But, you know what I'm saying? But if the Selectmen want the monthly, then so be it. I think it's public, I think it's our knowledge, I think we're entitled to it.
I think at this point, what I'm saying is, I think the chair of this committee should make the request and see where that goes, to start.
So there's a
If you
motion
get a
on the
no
floor.
answer
All
or
right, yeah,
whatever,
there's-
then we
Motion on
can
the
go
floor. This is discussion.
beyond that.
You gotta get the motion in black and white.
Yeah.
What exactly is the
Can you
motion?
rephrase the motion?
And someone has to write it down.
Want me to rephrase it?
Just
Just so
make,
it's clear.
just rate it.
He
How you-
has it right
Yep.
there.
I make a motion that the finance director emails the monthly budget report to either the budget committee members or to the budget committee chairman monthly.
Okay, and.
Two budget committee chairmen?
Yeah,
Two
that's-
budget committee chairmen, Bob?
Because
Either to us or,
let's just
Budget,
simplify.
budget committee chairman?
Yeah, go with budget committee chairman,
Okay,
only to
that's
make it
fine.
easier.
Whatever is
Where we're
easiest.
saying whatever would
I'm not
create-
after more work for
Right.
anybody.
Right.
And
But it
that-
was within a period of time also, wasn't it? Isn't that what, you know what I mean? We're not looking for it by the end of the month, we're looking for it within the first, whatever, am I correct?
That was his
Peter?
intention, but I don't know that we have any control.
Say it
over
when we
that.
get it,
Right.
okay.
Dennis, did you have something to say?
No, I think within the first 2 weeks of the month, give a time period as opposed, if.
Or when it becomes available.
Right, a monthly
Right.
report.
Well,
is on-
if we're saying it's creating more work, okay, as long as we get it within the first 2 weeks.
Right, okay. Yep,
Okay, and you second,
yes, I did.
I'm pretty sure that it's not creating any more work. I think it's a standard
I agree.
report that comes
I
out.
agree.
It's done every month.
It is.
Yep.
It's from BMSI.
so this is a motion in writing, but I will also contact the acting town manager and
Yeah.
finance director. So let's vote on the motion, just so we have the tally. All those in favor of contacting them, say aye.
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 All those opposed, abstained?
I abstain because I can't represent the other four board
Okay,
board
so
members.
it's 7-0. Bob?
Could we ask also Julian to, you got the flavor of what we're after.
I know exactly what
Would
you're
you
asking.
Please talk to Greg Colby.
I have a
I
question.
can do that. But I think you'll get a good answer from
Okay.
him. I have a lot of confidence in Greg Colby that he's going to give a proper answer.
Okay.
And if it doesn't give a proper answer, then we work from
And
there.
if you
Let the
already-
process work like it's supposed to first.
And if you received something recently,
Trying to do
could
that.
you email that to me? Because I was not part of that email chain.
I'll look it up.
Laurie's acting as our minute taker right now, but
Yeah.
it seems to me as we're using Julian as our secretary, is number one, are you comfortable? Number two, is this something you want to do? Basically, you're doing what our secretary would do, is taking motions and whatnot to the town management. Right now, you're working as
Well, right
more than
now,
that.
your email is going to go to the town manager. So this issue will be taken care of by
Right.
your chair
Okay.
at this point.
Because that's usually how motions on boards get to town management, is through a secretary, which we don't have.
Right, so Max has already said she will email Greg or contact him, whatever, to make the request, and then we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Yep. Bob?
What Sam is talking about is, this committee used to have an administrative assistant, like you do on the Board of Selectmen. We had one also. It was taken away 3 years ago. And it's made the job of the chairman of the Budget Committee very difficult.
But you're talking about the minute
We don't
taker.
have that person in-house.
You're,
that-
you're talking about the minute taker.
No.
No,
No, we're
we had
talking
an
about
admin.
Administrative assistant.
Okay,
That was taken
a
away
different
from us
issue. All right, got it.
3 years ago.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, so we lost our contact between the town government and this board.
So I guess the default is to contact our BOS rep and say, hey, this is what we want, can you make it
You
happen?
can make motions all day long and write
Yeah.
them down, or
Well,
they're stuck
I
in the
would say
book.
make that another request.
Okay,
You're the chair, this is the proper way to do it. You represent this board, if you make a request,
so now
you,
that,
it succeeds, or gets modified, or gets denied. Now, if it gets denied, then there's another discussion. But just do it right let people do their job and try to do a good job at it first before you start pushing.
so then.
Kind of, it's
I'd
the right
like-
way to do things.
I'd like
Yeah.
to discuss, since we currently, I thought we were gonna have a minute taker, but I've heard that that's now up in the air. So if we do not currently have a minute taker that is hired,
Yeah.
I'd like to propose that we have we hire an admin/minute taker, that they can do both functions. Does anyone oppose? If we have to put out a new job description, since we don't have a minute taker that we hired, I think that should be in the job description, that they're also admin/secretarial. Yeah.
It sounds good on paper if that person was part of the town hall. I don't know.
Like constantly here.
I don't know if a stranger, if you will, someone coming in, then who would be even less connected to the workings of the town, trying to get information relayed. On paper, it sounds good, but we're thinking of the people we used to have that were great at it, that basically lived in this building. And when they were working their daily job, they relayed the information from us to the town management. I agree with you, that would be the perfect scenario, but I don't know if that person exists if they don't work in the town hall already.
Well, I'll get to in a second. I guess it would change the scope of, we would no longer be hiring a minute taker. Maybe it is someone that is in town, that
The person would be
is
the,
in town hall.
Makes sense.
lost my train of thought now.
Well, if you think of it, put your hand.
Just as an example, when we had an administrative assistant, things such as this would go on what was called a
Parking lot.
list. And every meeting that we had, every follow-up meeting, she would review that list and what was done, what wasn't done. And these things were constantly reviewed until they got accomplished.
I did try to do that a few times, but I'm only one person,
Well,
and
I
You know.
went through the same thing, so you don't, you're
Yeah.
talking to the choir.
so my thought is, if we hire a person for this position, maybe it will be more hours than just sitting in the meetings. They will be present at town hall and can do the administrative tasks. Yeah, Dennis?
I just personally feel we gotta get a minute taker. I
Yeah.
think
Oh, at
for
minimum.
more, we're not gonna get it. I'm just being honest. We struggled last year to just get a minute taker. I think if we can just get a minute taker and then go from there, you know. I hear what you're saying, believe me, sitting in that chair before, having the structure we had before made it so much easier, but I just think if that's what we're looking for, we're gonna end up where we were last year.
All right, so, I'm sorry, go ahead, Julian.
So I'm agreeing with Dennis. First things first, get you guys a minute taker.
Okay.
If you can get the other thing, if that's possible, that'd be great, but the minute taker is right now critical.
I agree.
You gotta have the minute
I
taker.
don't,
Sam.
I'm thinking that if we ask Julian to ask the Board of Selectmen how they would like us to relay information back and forth to the town hall, town government, whatever you want to call it, and just give us a process that they want us to follow, seeing as we do not have that administrative person. If it's the chair emailing, we can't have all of us emailing every department. So if there's already a thing in place where you have to email the town manager or the acting town manager or the board of selectmen chair or whoever, just tell us how you want, what process you want us to follow so we can follow it.
I'm okay with that. We can table this until you get the answer for
Yeah.
that. Okay. Next up, so we're basically done with the meeting schedule. I don't know how we got sidetracked, but my next agenda item is to review and discuss the 2020 budget and the budgeting process. I guess we kind of touched on that with everything we've discussed already. But I do want to reiterate that what went down at deliberative was very disrespectful to this board, the budget committee. It should never have come to that. If there were issues that it felt like the Board of Selectmen knew of things that were going to be presented at deliberative, and the budget committee should have known that before deliberative. And I don't want that to happen this year. That's all I have to say about the.
No,
I agree with you, Max.
I'll agree and add that it was underhanded, that we tried to start very early to both be on the same page as the Board of Selectmen all year. The promises were broken, deals were made, and it didn't work out. The rules kept changing. And then to see that citizens were asked to go in front of the deliberative session to put money back into budgets that were reduced. And the rumor is that it was at the request of Board of Selectmen members was despicable. That's just, there's no reason we should even start doing anything if that's what we're gonna go through again. It's more of a waste of time than anything.
Julian?
And I'm going to say, I was not, some of the things that came up at the last deliberative, I was not aware of. I mean, I was just surprised anyone that they were going to try to put money back in, and I don't know, it seemed well prepared, but this board member was not aware of some of those requests that were coming up at that deliberative session. So,
mean-
I don't know, but I can't speak for anybody else, but I was not aware of it.
The presentation that the rec commission did was done with town hall's help. So that is something, if that was gonna go down, that should have happened at a budget committee meeting.
I agree. It should have been transparent. If you needed it, it should have been, the case should have been presented here. And so I kind of in agreement with that part, because that was not, I don't think it was time to do it, if it could have been done earlier, because then you could have a good discussion.
Dennis?
I am not, well, I'll put it this way. I would like to see that we work together with the Board of Selectmen. Whether that can be accomplished or not, I don't know. But I want to move forward, and I would like you to deliver the message of, let's all work together. Whether it's before deliberative session that we get together as one board and talk about what's going on, goals beforehand, however that would look like. I think we need to try to work together as a unified front. Whether it can be accomplished or not, I don't know, but it's very tough to sit here and give up your Tuesday nights, then you go and you feel like all the work that you've put in is gone in one morning.
Yep.
You know, so.
I see no reason it's not realistic to expect we can do that.
Okay. Bob?
Last year was the first year in the 5 years that I've been on this committee that we had close cooperation, communication with the Board of Selectmen. They knew what we wanted, and we worked together to achieve it. We made some compromises. We reduced the budget by 2.5%, and the other came out of the warrant articles. So we managed to achieve the goals by working together. That was terrific until deliberative session, and then it all fell apart. And I believe that with the current Board of Selectmen that we have, same thing's going to happen next year. I have no doubt in my mind it's going to happen again next year. So I'm just putting that out there. That's my personal feeling.
And then Dennis? Pete, you first.
Well, for what Bob said, it doesn't make any difference what our relationship or working procedures are with the Board of Selectmen. It depends on what gets voted on in the deliberative session.
True.
That's what makes a difference. It's not how we feel with the board or what the board does or what the board knows. It's what gets voted on in the deliberative session.
Dennis, go ahead, and then I have something to add.
You're absolutely right, Pete, but along with that, a lot of times, unfortunately, people don't pay attention. So they see it on the ballot, and they think that's something we've discussed all year. You know what I'm saying? So whatever it may be, a particular article that may have been amended, up or down at deliberative session, I think a lot of people go into that ballot and go, oh, well, they're on the budget committee, they must have worked on this all year, not knowing what went on before that.
Let me just add what I was going to say, and then I'll go to you. I'll give the example of the records management. Mr. Blinn presented that at deliberative. Now, was that not something that we could have known about during the budgeting process? I mean, the record problem has been a problem for a while, and now all of a sudden at deliberative, it's going to be added and presented by a selectman. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we're trying to avoid, and we want to work together. So if that's something you have planned, tell us before deliberative. Come to the budget committee and say, hey, we want to add this to the budget because of this. I think that's all we're
I
asking.
think what you're requesting, and I think it is, we don't need surprises put together by town hall at deliberative session that wasn't brought up previously to, and I say to override the decisions of the budget committee that were made previously, and maybe they'd asked for it and they didn't get it.
And that's exactly what happened.
And I don't,
Exactly.
I'm going to speak for Mr. Blinn. I don't know if Mr. Blinn even knew about that before he presented it. He may have just been chosen to speak what was written down. I don't know that. I'm not inside on that. But I was going to give him an out that he may have just been given it and asked to
But
verb it.
that's the
Yeah.
problem on the Board of Selectmen management, because
Yeah.
that shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been like, here's a piece of paper, read this.
That's maybe what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
He may not have known that was coming up either. I can't tell you because
Yep.
I'm not in his mind, but I don't think Mr. Blinn would do something like that intentionally.
Right, Bob?
Well, I attended the deliberative session, and I got to see firsthand, that's one of the reasons why I ran as a write-in, because that was a very well orchestrated group. It went out long before, and I did see that the papers were handed to certain selectmen to read, and if you read it, then and you have not the full knowledge of what it means or what's going on, then shame on you, because your name is on it. As soon as you say it and you start representing it, then you need to know what you're talking about. And let me tell you something. I watched that that train come through, and that railroad just went right through, and everything that you guys worked hard to take out of the budget was put through by one certain group, and it just, from the tiers to the, you name it, they lined right up. And as soon as that subject was over, they left. These were not people that were there for the deliberative session. They were there to get their point across, to undo what you folks had worked so hard to put in, and you all sat there blindsided. You were like deer in the headlights, look. And unfortunately, all I know is I hope that doesn't happen in this year, and I'm hoping that by getting a monthly budget, we'll at least be on track for what's going on. We'll have a better idea, and hopefully with a better working relationship, or beforehand, when the deliberative session comes, we'll know what we're in for, and what these people are showing up for to put through to the club.
Pete, did you have something?
I don't know what we're talking about really when this town has a zero-based budget. If the budget committee cuts $50,000 off of a department's budget, that money can be made up with a surplus that's in the budget. So when we go to the deliberative session, and that 50,000 is added back in, it really doesn't have to be added back in, because it can come out of the surplus. Zero-based budgeting means that the bottom line is, that's what we're living with. And where it goes in each of the budgets in the department really makes no difference, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Does anybody else want to add? I think we've kind of covered how we feel as a budget committee about the budgeting process, and we're going to wait till we get the actual
Yep.
final budget before we, yep, Julian.
I was gonna say one point, because I've seen this happen at school board, which is really outrageous, sometimes outrageous. The school deliberative session, a little group of people will come in, they know most of the public isn't there, and they will push something through, and like they do, they will add money that they don't need when they have a multi-million-dollar surplus, yet they have to add a couple $100,000 in, which just really makes no sense because it's already there. So I don't understand sometimes people's thinking. But I think the big thing is people in the town who are concerned about their taxes, they're concerned about how their hard-earned money is spent, need to start showing up for these deliberative sessions because that's their power. When they don't show up, just like when they don't vote, they've handed their power away to the few that do show up. And I think that's a known problem in this town. People hardly even show up for primaries. We have the really low turnout for primaries, and then you complain about who's on the ballot or whatever. So it's a matter of people need to, if they're really adamant about their taxes, they need to show up for deliberative session so a small group of people can't push something through. That's the only thing you can do.
Please
That's-
don't take it the wrong way. I'm not opposed to a citizen standing there
Yep.
and opposing us taking money from a budget or adding money to a budget, whichever the case. That's their right,
It is.
their American right to stand there and say, I oppose this or I agree with this. I'm totally for that. I have no problem with a citizen coming up there and voicing their concern. It's when there's a half an hour long presentation on a PowerPoint that was prepared by Town Hall to blindside us on several occasions, more than one subject, several subjects, that added, I forget, what was the total, Laurie, that they added, over $75,000 back
Yeah.
I
in?
think so, yeah.
And we
That-
only cut 45 or
Yeah,
something.
that's cheap, that's backhanded.
And I would also like to add, I see a lot of people complaining about their taxes, and then you have the people saying, well, it's not the town, it's the school, 75% of your tax bill. But guess what? We're here, we can control this, and we should
control this,
control
exactly.
whatever we can here.
You
So-
control what you can,
Right.
right.
Dennis, did you have your hand up?
I did, I was just gonna, well, I guess what Julian was saying, it was worse before SB 2. You used to get
Oh, yeah.
people that
Oh,
would
yeah.
come in, you know, Sam, I mean, it was, you wanna talk about
Whoever yelled
backhanded,
the
and
loudest.
people would come in, they'd all come in, like 50 of them, they'd make that vote was over, it wasn't, you
That
go
warrant
to
articles will
ballot,
vote at a town meeting.
Yeah.
Not at the ballot, but at an
Right,
actual town
right
meeting.
at the meeting, yeah, it was.
And it was voice, whoever yelled the loudest.
Oh, yeah, there were fights, people, it was actually pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens when you grow.
So I guess we as a board are on the same page. how-
Yeah.
Yep.
Want to make one more comment. I don't think any of us was expecting to go through all of that presentation and 5 amendments that took most of the day.
Oh.
Most of us expected to be in and out of there relatively quickly, so, I mean, I had to leave a little bit early because of a personal commitment. It just wanted to throw that in. 5 amendments we had to suffer through. We were there, we didn't have lunch. It was awful. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
I will do anything to avoid that next year.
I think we're all on the same page. So if anybody plans on blindsiding us at deliberative, please come to the come to public hearing.
Yeah, public
Please come to
hearing.
public hearing and let us know.
I personally am against what you're saying. I don't think something should be blindsided at a meeting. Regardless, I'm not going to pick any particular issue, but if it couldn't be brought up earlier, I don't see why it's going to get brought up at a meeting, at a deliberative session. I think the deliberative session is to deal with the issues that are already there. But
Yeah.
I sympathize with
I appreciate
with
it.
the work people do and then have it undone. But
So you know our frustration.
I know your frustration.
I know you'll go back.
This is my
and
sixth
you'll-
budget season. I've
Yep.
seen it go both ways.
Yep. And, you
Yep.
know,
Bob?
I'd like to request one other thing that will help us, because obviously we're not going to have very many meetings before the budget's presented to us, if any. Recently, within the last few days, the town has had to submit to the New Hampshire Municipal Association a report on COVID, the loss of revenue resulting from COVID, and I know we've passed the deadline now, so that report has been submitted. It's involved with tax revenue losses, other revenue losses. We need to see that report, because this year in particular, it isn't just the report for budget to actual. It's the losses that we're going to be facing going into the end of the year and next year's budget as well. So again, if proper, I would like to make a motion that the town manager provides a copy of that report to the Budget Committee chairman as soon as possible, so she can distribute it to us to review.
Is that something the finance director would have, do you think?
He probably.
He'll
put
have
together,
it.
Yes.
But you have to do it via town manager. But
Okay.
Yeah.
he is the town manager right
Happens to be
now.
the same person.
Yeah, well, I don't, do we need a formal motion? I can just email him that when I email him about the monthly
Yeah.
expenditure.
But I think if we have a motion and we vote that we all want it, I think we've got a better shot at getting it.
Okay.
we have a consensus that we want that.
Yeah,
So
I, we have a consensus, let's go with the
And a consensus
consensus.
that we all want it.
Yep,
We want
Along-
to review it.
Along that line, also, with that report, and I will not say this correctly, but isn't there also, and help me out, Julian, some money that we will get back from the federal government from the COVID?
grants and stuff.
Yeah,
Well, Greg Colby's been on top of it.
Yeah.
So hasn't the fire chief.
yep,
And they've been looking at everything they know the additional expenses that have been incurred.
yep.
They're looking for the grants, they're looking for the reimbursements,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been filing that paperwork in a timely fashion, as soon as they know they can do it. I have all the confidence in both of them, and also the police chief, anything that was
Mm-hmm. already
involved
seen
there
it.
as far as COVID, that is being done at this point.
The purpose of that report was to give the information to the state so that they can help divvy out a lot of that grant
Yeah.
money. That was the whole purpose of it.
Yep, okay.
But I think the information in it would be very beneficial
Yeah,
to us.
yeah.
Sam.
So Max will make that request.
Yeah, I will.
I'm sure he has that right at the tip of his fingers, because he's doing it probably every day.
My concern might
Working on it.
relay to Bob's. Is that money, that report to get that money, is that going to be to make up what I'm assuming is going to be a loss of the highway block grant? That money comes from the state gas tax, meals, rooms tax, hotel tax, tolls,
Point.
which we went a quarter of this year with ridiculously reduced
I assume it's,
state income, so I can only imagine that a highway block grant is gonna be a fraction of what it usually is.
Right.
And isn't that normally,
That's the
correct,
part of this
150?
report.
I think it was supposed to be 166 this year.
yes,
Yeah, they released it already, the
that's
amount.
what it was budgeted for, and I don't think we're going to see that. But it should be in that report,
I would assume so, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will add that to my email. I don't have any old business.
Just, while we're just bring up, I think we should mention that our new fire chief did bring in a huge
Yes.
grant to the town, and just.
I heard on the
Budget
radio
committee,
today,
we
it was
commend him.
126 or 62, $126,000?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
so.
Wow.
Just, as a budget committee,
Yeah,
Oh, this guy knows what he's doing. He's a professional.
yeah, that was great to see.
Bob,
I got one, or possibly two more things I'd just like to bring up.
okay.
Last year, when we got the budget presented to us, it did not have the comments column filled in. which resulted in a lot of questions that we had based on the line item. I'd like to request this year that we have that comments column included when we're presented the budget, please.
Yep. That's something,
I
the
think
Board
I
of
should make a
Selectmen,
motion, but I won't.
It's a description on the line item.
Request, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the description.
but the Board of Selectmen gives us their budget. It has that description in it, correct?
It didn't last year.
I know it didn't last year, but,
We got the same thing you got.
Yeah.
so is that,
Everything that you got is what we got when it came
We
to those
did get it
spreadsheets.
later in the year.
we
but
got
I
it
think was
towards the end, but if that's something that the Board of Selectmen needs as well, could we just have it all together?
Right. Comments.
I assume you guys would want to know what the descriptions are too when you're working on the budget.
I would like as much information as I can get.
Right, so that's all we're requesting. Yep,
I had one last thing. This, for a number of years now, the highway department has not been using sand on the roads. We know that because of our meetings. They're just using salt, but yet we're still sweeping the streets every spring at a cost of $5,000. So I just want to throw it out there. Why are we still sweeping the streets, especially
I know the answer.
considering the fact that we have
It's
equipment with sweepers? If it,
part of the MS4 municipal stormwater, I don't know if it's the act or what it's called, it's the form we have to fill out. It requires any town with a municipal sewer system, and it doesn't mean you have sewerage, it means catch basins.
okay,
You have to pick up
Yep.
a percentage of what you put down.
okay.
So they're required to sweep the streets and record how many tons of debris they pick up by law, because we're an MS4 town.
So they are recording that.
I believe so, I'm pretty sure that's in there. I've read the reports, and it usually says how many tons, and it's considered hazardous waste and has to be disposed of properly.
Okay.
It's part of the MS4 requirements.
Thank you,
yeah,
Sam.
Julie.
Look at the question. You said we're not putting any sand down. So how can you pick up what you didn't put down?
Good question.
The salt gets
Brings up the
pulverized,
question.
and there is some sand in the salt, but
Okay, so there is.
Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
mix, isn't it?
From what I've seen, there's very little picked up. You know, there's not like piles of salt and sand in the
right.
streets, because usually it's not until June when they're swept, and by then everything's
Okay.
washed away, but
Julie.
it has to be
I
done
make
by
one
law.
suggestion. We're not actually talking about line items on the budget yet, so maybe
Right.
this is not a discussion until we brought up till that time. All right.
I'll shut up.
I'm not gonna, it's just that, we have nothing to look at right now. So the time to make those arguments is when the actual budget, we have something in front of us.
Now, do you have any idea of when you're going to be getting the budget?
What would you do?
I have no idea right now, to tell you the truth. I haven't been informed of anything,
Stop and come up with.
and I was kind of, I guess I'll have to find out.
Okay.
I'm in the dark as far as that goes at this point.
I was just curious. Okay,
Haven't received anything, and haven't heard that I'm going to receive anything at this point. But then we have a little bit of a shift in the town management right now, temporarily, hopefully.
all right, well, any new business? No? I will adjourn the meeting at 7:49. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.